Guys, man, I want to come back to. I want to bring you a story that I felt fitting for the time that we're in right now, because I think people are getting sick and tired of the woke bullshit trials that we're having, and we saw that in New York with the acquittal of Daniel Penny. Again, they could not convict Daniel Penny of anything. Um, with a bunch of liberals. I mean, again, we got to be honest about that. So we're seeing, I think, kind of a backlash on some of these woke trials. That people are putting up with that stuff anymore. But I think it's about time that we revisited the Derek Chauvin case. Again, Derek Chauvin was the cop that was convicted of killing George Floyd. And again, that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. But again, people are unaware, and again, people I've spoken with are unaware of the actual facts surrounding what happened. They're unaware that again, George Floyd did not die there on the street. He didn't die there. He died later at the hospital. Again, when they wanted a blood sample, a blood sample of George Floyd before George Floyd died, it was actually taken at the hospital afterwards. George Floyd was still alive. So again, I'm not saying that he deserved to die or whatever. No, of course not. What I am saying is what they said happened didn't happen the way they said it did. But guys, watch this. Now I wanted to show you guys a video of the jury talking to Don Lemon talking to Don Lemon after the trial. And again, this is really kind of truly, to me at least, scary. Watch.
We got to the point actually that we realized for charge 2, at some point, I think it was Jody, I'm pretty sure it was Jody, said, wait a minute, does the intended act of harm have to be the death of George Floyd, or can it be him not providing the life support? And it was like all of a sudden light bulbs just went on for those people, I think, that were undecided or on the not guilty side.
Yeah, go ahead. I want to hear from you, Jody. Why is it you brought that up? What did you?
I brought that up because
Tell me what you brought up and why.
I brought up to the fact that this is not what he did, but more or less what he didn't do. He did not provide life-saving measures for George Floyd when he knew that the guy was in pain or needed medical attention.
Why do you think that was a light bulb?
Well, when we were in deliberations, and Jody did bring that up, and we did look through everything very, very carefully, what I thought about is something that was said during the trial, and that is Minneapolis Police Department has a motto, and if I'm understanding it correctly, their motto is, in our custody, in our care. George Floyd was in their custody. He was never in their care.
Again, right here, guys, you're looking for something. You're looking for that moment, that light bulb moment. You're looking like, again, it dawned on us all of a sudden that we could convict him of what he didn't do and what we believe he should have done. And, again, that's really kind of muddy in the water there. But, again, because majority of people don't know that, again, people I've talked to, they don't know that that George Floyd did not die there under Derek Chauvin. He didn't. He died later at the hospital. Again, they were able to get blood samples at the hospital before he passed away. Again, it's not like Derek Chauvin should have done CPR. Again, he died later at the hospital. And again, because of heart disease, fentanyl in the system and the exertion that he was under because of him. But you don't see a whole lot of people that understand that. Again, this was a show trial. It was something they wanted to get. They had to get. It felt like they had to get to appease the Black Lives Matter movement. And again, the country at that time, I think the country has grown up quite a bit in the past 4 years since then. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, if they're looking for something, well, again, you listen to their own words. They're trying to find a reason that they can't convict them. Again, it doesn't seem like without a reasonable doubt situation. Again, they're looking for a reason to convict the man. They're not taking the evidence and weighing it. No. They're looking for something they can use to say guilty.
Medical examiner Dr. Andrew Baker testified that in his initial autopsy on George Floyd, he found no physical evidence of asphyxia and that coronary artery disease and hypertension contributed to his death. Baker later added Floyd's high level of fentanyl and other drugs in his system also were factors in his death, as was the police restraint. Baker says his office received hundreds of complaints and threats as a result of these findings, but Baker denied he ever felt pressured to change his conclusions.
Yeah. You know what, guys? There's two things going on here. Again, the good doctor changed his mind. Again, you don't change your mind about something like that. That doesn't happen. You don't go in and do an autopsy and okay, look, this is what happened. This is the reason why he died. And then turn around, go back. Go back on everything you said. Yeah. Again, somebody got to the good doctor. Somebody got to him. Number one. And number two, Derek Chauvin, his attorneys never told him that, again, George Floyd was alive up to about an hour later at the hospital. And again, majority of people, they don't know that he was. But Derek Chauvin wasn't even told that. Why? Again, if I were his defense team, that would be one of the first things to bring up. And look, he's alive an hour later at the hospital. Again, something is going on there. Something is happening. And again, they're not wanting us to question. Certain people aren't. And, I don't know. But I think most people understand this does not look good at all. At all. And Derek Chauvin did not have the right to a proper trial. Because again, never was he told when George Floyd actually passed away. And on top of that, again, the evidence was not introduced. Hey, wait a minute. If he were alive an hour later, how could that be? Again, how could that say George Floyd was the one that caused that, or Derek Chauvin was the one that caused that? It could be said with a straight face. So again, this is being done on purpose, and there are people that I truly believe that are involved with this way up the ranks. Way up the ranks. But I don't think nowadays that would take place. I don't. 3 years ago, yeah, but now, no. It would take place because I think people, they're too smart. They understand that something is afoot. They understand that. But guys, I'm going to show you something else I really found quite interesting. And it goes into how much drugs were in the system and how they tested him.
It is basically the postmortem concentrations or samples that were hospital blood samples that were submitted by Mr. Floyd, and we found fentanyl at 11 nanograms per milliliter and norfentanyl at 5.6 nanograms per milliliter. So this slide shows what the ratio of the parent drug to the metabolite is. So 11 nanograms per mil divided by 5.6, the norfentanyl gave Mr. Floyd a ratio of fentanyl to norfentanyl of 1.96.
How does Mr. Floyd's ratio compare to that data set?
So Mr. Floyd's ratio is roughly just a little bit below the median ratio in DUI.
Okay, here's what the issue is, guys. George Floyd, his blood levels of fentanyl in the system that was taken before he passed away. And again, people, for the most part, I don't believe they understand that George Floyd lived as long as he did. He did not die there on the ground. He died, I believe, just over an hour later at the hospital. He did not die with Chauvin on his neck. And again, the numbers, the amount of fentanyl in the system that, again, they just showed you right there on the graph, was taken before he passed away. It was from blood that was taken from him before he passed away. And again, why does that matter? Well, that matters because, again, what they're comparing it to are the lethal amount, or I guess people that were dead. It was collected post-mortem. And I did not realize this, but with fentanyl, you can have a 900% spike after you pass in your bloodstream, in your body. Now, again, I'm no doctor. I don't understand all the ins and outs of this, but again, they're passing it off as the same thing. It's not. But again, they're trying to pass it off as the same thing. Again, I think nowadays, 3 years ago, I think people, they were naive in this country and around the world. But again, I think since 2020, 2021, I think people are starting to wake up. They realize that they're being played. They're being played. They've been had. And again, they're not going to tell you the truth. And I believe people, even the people that knew, again, they were willing to play along. But people now, I don't believe are. I do not believe to any degree they are. But I wanted to show you just how much, again, they're trying to pass this off. And again, how much they're lying to people. They're wanting people to believe that he died there. He did not. So guys, let me show you one more thing.
What was in his system and the toxicology report, and you heard from Dr. Eisenschmidt, right? And what he testified was that George Floyd's fentanyl to norfentanyl ratio, that the metabolite norfentanyl, that was well below the ratio of people who die from a fentanyl overdose. It was even below the median. And George Floyd's methamphetamine level, that was 94% lower than the group for driving, population for driving under the influence. Right? And Dr. Rich and Dr. Smock, They've treated patients who are under the influence of both fentanyl and methamphetamine, and they testified these drugs did not kill George Floyd. It didn't.
They are knowingly using information on George Floyd. That was his blood work before he passed away. And again, they're using it again. They're trying to compare that to overdose victims. What the average overdose victim, what their levels were, again, when they passed away. After death, when their blood levels were taken, after death, and after that massive spike that occurs. And we truly have to understand, people, they're not used to this. They haven't been. They have been used to this level of deception. But again, it's happening. And we saw that again happening a few years back, again with the coronavirus and everything. I mean, we saw what they would tell you and what turned out to be the case. And again, I'm not going to get into that too much because I don't want you to come down on me or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, again, people aren't as naive as they were a few short years ago. I think they'll wake up to a degree. But I want to show you one last little bite. And again, this shows without a doubt. Again, they're trying to say this is the point that George Floyd died. This is the point that he lost his life. Right here. But again, they don't mention that George Floyd died an hour later at the hospital. Watch.
Fatal injury to the brain from a lack of oxygen.
Minutes later, still pinned to the ground by Chauvin.
That's the moment the life goes out of his body.
I think a lot of people, again, in this country and around the world, they could not fathom being lied to like this 5 years ago. They couldn't. Again, let's go back to 2019. Again, we were naive. I mean, really, this country, the world, and then the coronavirus, and we knew that a lot of us knew that we were not being told the truth. Then things came out over and over again. It was like, wait a minute. And again, they forced a vaccine on a lot of people. And again, this is, during that time frame, that again, 2021, people are starting to question things a little bit. But again, they could not believe the government would be lying to them to such a degree, trying to cause problems, and that there were those in power that again tried to purposely cause problems. That's what happened. Again, the whole George Floyd situation, Michael Brown situation, again, Trayvon Martin. Again, over and over again, people have been lied to. Again, we got to take DEI. And again, if you don't like it, if you think something is wrong with again discriminating against white people, especially white men, then again, if you don't like that, then you're automatically a bigot. You're automatically hateful. If you don't want everyone coming across that border, open borders, come on in. If you don't like that, then something is wrong with you. just a few years before that, people could imagine. They could not imagine saying that. Again, we were and are a country, and we had to have borders, and we had to have rules, we had to have laws. And again, they had to apply equally to everyone. And if they don't, then we have effectively gone backwards. And I believe we have gone backwards. And I believe, to a degree, people are waking up to smelling the coffee. They're starting to get it. And again, that is what's going to just wake it up. Again, you don't have to go out there and do something or whatever, but just waking up and noticing what's going on and refusing to agree with the woke mobs. Refusing that. And again, if you're called a racist and a bigot and whatever, that's fine. That is fine. That is a price that we're going to have to pay to be called a bigot, to be called anti-gay or a transphobe or whatever. Again, you're going to have to be called stuff in order to stand. And again, I think the majority of people, they're starting to realize that, and they're starting to say, okay, we've had enough. But guys, man, if you would, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. You son of a